Hey everybody, welcome back to Trek Yards. I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Commander Guns.
Samuel, I'm glad that this is not a live video. From what I hear, anyone that's streaming live right now, their computers are going to explode, or at least soon. But we're not live. We're recording this. It's pre-recorded. You're going to edit it. It's going to be fine. We'll be fine as long as we're not streaming live at... Well, I can't tell you the exact times. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to be fine. So in some voiceover dialogue from Michael Burnham, we learn about the burn and how every Federation or every ship with an active warp core exploded. But then later, in the same episode, when the United Earth defense lady says, you know, what's up with your ship? And Saru says, oh, well, we weren't at warp at the time. And Burnham kind of looks at him like, but the other lady kind of accepts that as an answer. Makes you wonder. And we had this debate early on when we first heard about the burn. Is it all things with dilithium in it that went boom, most of them, or is it just ones that had active warp cores, meaning at warp? And unfortunately, we didn't get any clear answers here.
It's a mystery we're going to solve throughout the season.
Hopefully, yes.
Well,
because it's fair to say that not all Federation ships went boom, because we already heard of two of them in the guy that within scanning range of the relay station.
Well, Federation got moved from Earth to somewhere else, and there's a lot of people, tech, things to move.
And they even said that the Federation was the hardest hit. So the Federation was the one that relied the most on dilithium, I guess. I know a lot of people have brought up the fact that, well, the Romulans use a quantum singularity. Yeah, as their power source. But guys, dilithium's not a power source. It's just a refinement process for the warp plasma. So,
but you wouldn't need it if you had enough. You wouldn't need it though if you had enough power.
Well, you would think, yes.
Because you wouldn't need matter antimatter. You just use that.
Well, matter and antimatter is pretty explosive reaction. So, I think there's a lot of power there. But anyway,
but a sun is a lot of power too, Stuart. It could power a time suit. It can go anywhere in time and space. Yeah. But Stuart, we are missing one part of the equation, though. They said, and this, I think, has helped the whole situation, is that the galaxy is running out of dilithium.
That they're drying up.
Yeah, so, which I thought was an interesting equation, because there's only so much of anything anywhere. And obviously, if you can travel far and wide, you can find more. But we know it's a naturally occurring phenomenon. We know races have been using it for a long, obviously longer than the Federation's been around. It's only finite, and if you add another 900 years to Discovery, whatever, then maybe there's a limited whatever. And so the added context is that because it's running out, obviously the universe is going to have to start rationing it. So it's likely that when they say everything with active warp core went boom, you wouldn't be able to throw in thousands of ships, because maybe there isn't enough lithium to have thousands of ships. So in fact, by having that caveat of running out, potential rationing, it lowers the what could be trillions of pure death toll, because the writers of Discovery aren't the most thinking writers. They kind of they're more JJ writers than Star Trek writers, in the sense of just, look, go fast, go boom. I mean, why are there petrol explosions firing off shields? There shouldn't be, as a trope. So when they say all active warp cores, they only say it in terms of Federation. But you got Romulan, you got Klingon, you got Borg, you got Xindi, every race in the galaxy. Like, that's everybody. So that is hundreds of trillions of people probably. But they treat the way they showed it was just like, oh yeah, just the Federation ships. Like that, guys, if you're saying everywhere, that's trillions. Your Discovery are killing trillions, unless dilithium's running out, and warp travel becomes more and more insular, and actually the universe becomes less, you can't be as broad, and so they only said millions died, which is severely underwhelming.
Yes. And let's not forget all of the planets that are rich in dilithium as, veins of dilithium running through the planet, or asteroid fields. Now, it's not an active warp core, so did all that dilithium that was still remaining, that was maybe undiscovered in certain planets, did it go boom? Probably not. Initially, I kind of thought that was the case, that all dilithium went boom, which means some planets would have been annihilated.
Yeah.
But, they make a point of saying an active warp core. Then we see a bunch of ships, which is just a visual representation of what happened. None of them were at warp, but that's okay. Like I said, visual representation. Boom. And then Saru's explanation, we just weren't at warp at the time. I wish he would have said we were having technical difficulties and the warp core was powered down at the time.
But I certainly prefer at warp, because just killing any ship anywhere is a level of destruction that is unparalleled in Discovery. I mean, yes, Control killed the universe, but that's an abstract term of the universe. Saying every warp-capable ship in every race and every part of the quadrant blew up. I mean, how many families is that killing? Etc. Whereas if they're just at warp, then... Because, I mean, define an active warp core. I mean, is humming... I mean, you know, if it's about the amount of power required to cause a boom... And why would it be the same second ever in the galaxy? I mean, so we have no reason to know why. But if they got word, and then they could drop out of warp, and they could avoid being blown up, and then they know, shit, well, we can't activate warp, we are stuck. We can make, we can have limited power, maybe like 1% power, or whatever.
Well, that's the other thing. I think what maybe the way this is explained is, as you kind of speculated early on, the dilithium just kind of disintegrated and went away. If a ship was at warp, putting all the power from the warp core into the dilithium crystals to create the warp plasma, and they just fizzled away, of course that would create a boom, because there's no refinement process there. If it's just a ship that's in orbit and the warp core is doing its thing, just boom, 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 really quietly, it's not putting that power through the dilithium crystals, because the dilithium crystals are there to supply high-end warp, to refine that massive amount of energy that's produced and put it into warp plasma.
Because there is a slight complexity of how they use power. I mean, take Enterprise D, for example. Do you really think that every system is being powered by the warp core all times? You know how many times they turn the warp core off and the lights don't go off? And Geordi says, I need to do maintenance, and the ship is still running full. The assumption would be that most ship systems run on the fusion generators as they're normal, because the warp core is so essential for everything else. And then, like you say, it's used for high octane stuff.
Well, you think that the warp core powers those auxiliary generators or charges them?
Yeah, charges
them. The warp core has to go down. Those are the backup. Yeah, absolutely.
There's an episode of Stargate where a alien race causes the hyperdrive units that when they go to hyperspace, the layer of cell space, which is hyperspace, is unstable. It causes their destruction. You can still go to hyperspace. You just get blown up as you enter hyperspace. So if it's the same thing, warp drives are obviously fine. It's just you can't utilize them. And if a dilithium burned itself away, then you're out of dilithium, and then you can't definitely go.
Exactly, that's what I think happened.
But then if we are saying, if we give them the benefit of the doubt, active warp core is just at warp, then each of those ships would still have dilithium in their drives, and then if they pulled them out, because obviously go boom, to have the scarcity factor to be relevant, that wouldn't make sense, because then what, do you wait a day and you try and go to warp? You wait 2 days? I mean, obviously everyone can go to warp now. There's no issue now. So either it was like a subspace disease that cracked all dilithium everywhere at one go or made it inert, except, I guess, the new dilithium that planets had, whatever. And as you said, an active planet with dilithium isn't going to be energized. It's just be in the ground. So as soon as you find a new planet, dilithium, boom, harvested, whatever. And if you can say it's free, I think we're also it's a man-made dilithium destruction event. So if it just targets all dilithium now and disintegrates it or fractures it, whatever. But all dilithium must have gone away. Otherwise, all the ships will just go to warp tomorrow. Unless they say, and what does it mean? Like we had to wait 2 years for dilithium to de-energize. Like there's other levels there. And if they just all went boom, obviously then almost all the dilithium in the galaxy got blown up at the same time, because all you have then is just stuff in storehouses and on planets. Because theoretically, a planetary, Earth, thing is, if it was an active warp core, Earth should also be destroyed. Because I'm sure Earth also had warp, matter antimatter generation units to power Earth, because one warp core, they're not causing warp, but they're high energy generators. So if they were active, then Earth should have craters in it. And you'd not get the sense, they say they rebuilt Earth, but that's just infrastructure. There are lines here that must be clarified.
Well, yeah, as we pointed out too, like if dilithium is just the refinement process to create that warp plasma to allow for high-end warp, there's no reason for it to be on antimatter reactors on Earth, because those are stationary. They aren't going to warp. So I think it's just the ships that need to go to high warp that would have the lithium chamber to create that.
But if you need a power supply that can power half a planet, why wouldn't you build a matter-antimatter reactor that can? It's just power. Yeah, it can generate power.
Yeah, but the dilithium, what it does is it refines that power source into warp plasma, and I have a nice visual schematic of it, which I'd have to show you so you understand. Um, I'll send it to you so you can put it up right now. But it shows that the the power generation gets fed through the dilithium crystal chamber that gets converted into warp plasma, which allows for the higher end warp. So any matter antimatter reactor that doesn't need to go to warp because it's not on a starship wouldn't necessarily have dilithium for that refinement process because they don't need that warp plasma.
Can you just charge other plasma and then have that generate the power? Just like batteries are, a something inside of a something, couldn't you just have that charged energy flow into a generator? Well, like you said, if the warp core is charging the fusion generators, well, how is it charging if it's only creating warp plasma? Anyway, just there's other questions here. I think it's fair to say they meant everyone got blowed up, which unfortunately, and this is the sad thing about the episode, every single descendant of any legacy character is probably dead. All of them.
Just think of the Enterprise Z, whatever it was at the time, the flagship, the best crew out there. Yeah, the best crew out there just went, well, if they're at warp, went boom. They could be stuck in the far reaches.
I'm saying if we go with the obvious, Discovery probably means they all just blew up without a warp. Like, assuming the just active warp core is the reason, then Discovery killed the entire Starfleet force. All of them, except the students on Earth and on other planets. Like, they killed every single descendant you ever knew. We're never going to get another Dax. We're never going to get another Cisco. We're never going to get... Because the likelihood is they're on a ship, or a space station, or a shuttle. And that, to me, is heartbreaking, because that's everybody. Because how much time did Cisco spend on a ship or station in DS9? Most of it. So it's likely they're all dead. If it's just at warp, then still most people, because most people are travelling between A and B, but it's not everybody, the space stations are fine. Then maybe it's just high warp. Maybe active warp core just means something at a certain point. Because all you have to do is say anything above warp 2 generates too much power. You instantly say, well, now we're all stranded. Because you're doing the Voyager phenomenon. Well, it takes 75 years at warp 9.975. Oh no, it takes 75 years at warp 2 to get the same distance as to get the distance we want to go. So I can imagine that might be... Although clearly the ships that were defending Earth were weird. So you can imagine if every ship everywhere got blown up, they had to create new ships, and they went for a brand new design, 100 years ago. That would certainly track with how different the ships look. But then Titan's ships, how did Titan build new? Anyway.
Put your thoughts, your comments, your question down in the comment down below. What you think about this, and please, be part of the conversation. There's a lot with the lithium, and it's not a power source, so just so you guys are clear on that. But yeah, what do you think? Was it ships at warp? Just tell us exactly your thoughts and theories. We love reading them. And if you want to join us for a live where we have discussions like this, you can ask us in real time and have us talk about it with you on a live chat. So please consider doing that as well. And the best way to be notified of those is click the notification bell icon. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and always like the video. Yeah, please join us for the lives.
Yeah, and we do pride ourselves on reading every single super chat. So if you put a comment for $1 to 5 to 10 to 20, it'll be read. And if you can put anything you want. So if you have a really interesting topic or question, boom. They can often create 5-minute debates just from that. So if you can, please do. They do massively help the channel. Because we do need personal donations to keep going. Ad revenue is a joke. It has been for a couple of years. But you guys have stepped up, and if we do these interesting bits of content, you guys can help us get there. That, as well as Patreon, and joining the YouTube channel is a new thing you can join and pay us monthly, and then get all the free content. It's a great way of supporting us, and if you enjoy what we do, and how much we do during these new shows, and we will continue to do, any of those different ways do make a difference. But as just said, it's a great way to. And you'll see more of us, so just keep tuning in.
That's right. So until then, I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Grant Coggins.